News 8 in high definition, first in news, first in HD.
The following is a presentation of ESPN on ABC. Proximity and passion, point of view and past performance are all essential ingredients of this century-old rivalry they call the Border Showdown. Kansas and Missouri, Jayhawks and Tigers. Make no mistake, there's no love lost between these arch-enemies. It's rivalry week when friends and families are divided.
You know, should I be happy for that Kansas is winning? Yeah, I want to be happy for my wife, but should I be happy for a Kansas fan? You know, no.
You say either, I say either. You say neither, and I say neither. Either, either, and either, neither. Let's call the whole thing off.
They got the name from the two birds that are native to the prairies, the blue jay and the hawk.
They were indecisive and just had to glue a couple things together. Maybe we should have been the Tiger Dogs.
James Naismith, the father of basketball, was a professor and brought basketball there.
I mean, they invented the game of basketball and they've won 2 championships. Missouri may not have won any championships, but they didn't invent the game.
Don't worry, no matter how it goes, you don't have to sleep on the couch tonight.
How big is this game? Truman, the Tigers never come in from the ceiling before. That's how big it is in rivalry week in Columbia, Missouri. As our matchup in the Big 12, presented by KFC, brings us to Mizzou Arena, and it is rocking. Over 15,000. Rivalry week presented by Cisco as the 8th-ranked Jayhawks in to take on the Tigers of Missouri. The standings in the Big 12 tell the whole story. The surprising Aggies alone on top. But Kansas now just a game back, and they've already got 20 wins. Missouri trying to move into the middle of the pack. And if they can get an upset, they'll do so. Upset they did a year ago. Let's take you back to January of last year in this building. It was a 7-point Kansas lead with 34 seconds to play. The Tigers clawed their way back in. And then Christian Mooney had a chance from the free throw line to win it and couldn't. Missouri took them to overtime and they won it 89-86. They're looking for more of the same here this afternoon. Welcome everybody, I'm Brad Nessler with Jimmy Dykes. We're looking forward to this one because this goes back to 1907. This is the 100th anniversary of this border showdown.
No, partner, it goes back a lot longer than that. We're talking about Civil War times when Kansas and Missouri used to go at one another. The Kansas Jayhawkers would cross the border and raid and loot the towns, and then the Missouri bushwhackers would retaliate by burning down towns and stuffing ballot boxes. It was the bushwhackers and the Jayhawkers 140 years ago. It's the Tigers and the Jayhawks today.
Hey, Gunsmoke was on for 25 years, and because it was in Dodge City, nobody in Missouri would watch. Let's talk about what this game means, though. Kansas, a 20-win team already.
Well, Kansas is in the conversation right now, Brad, for a potential number 1 or number 2 seed overall in the NCAA tournament, and that's huge. They've been a number 3 or 4 seed the last 2 years, and have been ousted in the first round. It won't be easy today. Missouri played the socks off of these guys 3 weeks ago.
Well, they did play them well 3 weeks ago. They've beaten them twice in this building. Kansas has never won here. This is the kind of showdown and border rivalry that sometimes can rip a family apart when it's almost Valentine's Day.
And when was the last time you were ranked above us?
2003. Yeah.
For how long?
A few weeks until we lost like our first 5 of 9 and fell out of the rankings and never recovered, but yeah, absolutely.
ESPN's college basketball presented by KFC and the new Buffalo Snacker. And Cisco Systems. Welcome to the Human Network. Cisco.
All right, international shipping. So you need to bring your products from China to the U.S. And you like the reliability of those big brown trucks. The problem is, trucks don't float. But what if that big brown truck or a big brown plane, UPS, has one of the world's largest airlines. There. Now we'll get over here in a hurry. Early in the morning if you want. It's not international shipping. It's international shipping with UPS.
Brandon Rush, this is how you stretch, getting all set. It's Kansas in their very balanced attack takes on a Missouri team desperate to get a victory. Kansas has dominated this series. The game comes up next right here on ESPN on ABC. Welcome, everyone. I'm Carl Ravitch, and, of course, we'll have much more on all the games coming up at the half. Tip-off is just a couple of seconds away. When you talk about Player of the Year, it seems like the debate has just intensified, partly because Greg Oden's been hurt, the other part because Kevin Durant has been so outstanding. You'll see what Durant did at the half, another incredible performance for him. As for Oden, banged up, foul trouble today. He only played half the game against Purdue. Purdue played what seemed like a game and a half. They were on fire. They're down 2 as David Teague hits that putback. A minute to go. Oden's high school teammate was Michael Conley Jr. They follow each other to Ohio State. Conley Jr. gets the bucket there. They're up 58-54. Keaton Grant. There is Oden with the block, which is what he does, as well as anyone in the nation. He also made a couple of big free throws down the stretch. Ohio State is a winner, 63-56. Iowa, Wisconsin. No visiting team has won in Madison this year. Mike Henderson. The drive, little kick down to Cyrus Tate, gets the roll. Iowa is up by 4 at the half. Wisconsin, though, back up 1 in the second. Brian Butch. Step back 3, Wisconsin up 47-43. The scoreboard says that Wisconsin's still battling here, 62-55. Tucker, with about 7+ to play, has got 15 points, 6 rebounds. He's only 5 of 13 from the field. Indiana, huge victory over Illinois. The Fighting Illini really needed that game. As you see, they're standing now 6-6 in conference. Indiana improves to 7-3. UCLA and West Virginia. The Bruins playing this game without Collison, who is out with a shoulder injury. So who's going to pick up some of that slack? Well, inside it was Josh Shipp, it was Aaron Aflalo. From the outside, they didn't have much as far as three-point shooting. That's what Collison does best. And there's the bang in a bucket for West Virginia. Last year, West Virginia built a double-digit lead against the Bruins. The Bruins couldn't come back. Today, they couldn't come back. Alex Ruoff goes for 18 points on 6 of 12 shooting. He was 3 of 3 from the stripe. The Bruins 10-2, and that brings a lot of other teams in the Pac-10 back into that conference race. Georgetown handles Marquette 76-58. Georgetown keeps getting better and better, now 8-2 in conference. Wake Forest in North Carolina. Michael Jordan, Dean Smith. This is a reunion of the 82 national championship team. Brandon Wright there to pick up the mess, and UNC is up by 7. Wright, Ty Lawson, Wayne Ellington, they hope to do what Jordan did, and that was win a championship, perhaps win more than one. Wright lays it in. They're up by 19 at the half, and then Ellington to Wright for the finish. Carolina has their way with Wake Forest, 104-67. Carolina now 22-3. No bad news for Gonzaga. Josh Heitfeld and Theo Davis have been arrested and now are under investigation after police Friday night found marijuana and psychedelic mushrooms in their car. Both players are telling officials at the school they're innocent. A spokesman told Andy Katz at ESPN.com that Mark Few was utterly disappointed, and he is in shock. Much more on that at the half as well. As far as the Big 12, the top of the conference seems pretty solid when you think about Texas, A&M, I should say. Kansas, a lot. Kansas State even gets a little bit muddier when you get into the Texases of the world, even though they're up today and look like they're going to get another win. It has to be take care of business. With more on the top of this conference and the rest, let's go to Reese Davis and company. They're in Lexington.
Kentucky typically sets its own standard. Wildcats would love to follow the example set by Kansas. Find a way to beat Florida. Wildcats and Gators at Rupp Arena tonight. Kansas and Missouri coming up in just a little bit. Arch rivals going at it. What's the key to the game, Hubert?
Well, I really like Kansas because of their difference maker, Sharon Collins, at the point guard position. He's excellent in terms of getting into the lane, distributing the basketball, and also knocking down that three. He had a big game against Missouri in that last game, 23 points and 5 assists for the freshman.
If they play Collins at the end of the game, but if they don't, I think Missouri has a great chance to win. They lost by 3 when they played at Kansas, and you look at how they get it done. Stephon Hanna had 15 points, Marshall Brown had 14, and Matt Lawrence had 19. Kansas had 17 turnovers. 17 turnovers. You can't do that at home. With only 7 offensive rebounds and 25 misses, Missouri will play this game and get a chance to pull the upset today.
And Missouri's down near the bottom of the Big 12, which just shows you that the Big 12 is a quality basketball conference. I don't think the Big 12 is getting near the credit they deserve for being a really good league. 5 teams in the RPI top 50, 6 of them in the RPI top 60. I think they got 6 teams that are still in the NCAA at-large mix, but teams like Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Texas Tech, and even Texas still have to continue to win in order to be NCAA tournament at-large teams. There's no question in my mind that teams like Texas A&M and Kansas, they're locks. Nothing can derail them. But the other 4 teams got to keep winning.
Keep winning. That's what Florida would like to do. Trying to stretch their streak to 5 against Kentucky will get you set with College Game Day, 8 o'clock Eastern Time.
I really look forward to that. Kansas, of course, they hosted game day. They lost last week. By the way, Texas is a winner 77-68. Highlights of Durant and company at the half. Enjoy the game, everyone.
Here come the 8th-ranked Kansas Jayhawks with a 257th time to meet the Tigers of Missouri. Missouri's down 70 games in the series, but they have won 3 league games in their last 5 outings, and they are smelling upset at home in Mizzou Arena. Let's take a look at our Star Watch presented by United States Postal Service. Jimmy.
And Brandon Rush for Kansas, one of the 30 Wooden Award mid-season honorees right now for National Player of the Year. Stephon Hanna from Missouri. He's the pulse, the trigger, the tone setter for that Missouri pressure. Both Rush and Hanna lead their ball clubs in 3-point shooting in Big 12 play.
Let's take a look at the starting lineups this afternoon. First for the visiting Jayhawks of Bill Self. Here's how the backcourt looks. Rush, Chalmers, Robinson. Rush, their leading scorer, as Jimmy just mentioned. And up front, Julian Wright and Sasha Khan. For the home team, the Tigers of Mike Anderson. Matt Lawrence, great 3-point shooter with Keon Lawrence in the lineup now. And Stephon Hanna running the show at the point. Galen Grimes and Marshall Brown up front. Brown is actually the leading scorer as far as conference games are concerned for the Tigers of Missouri. Kansas is 20-4. They're 7-2 in the conference. Missouri 14-8. They are 3-6 in conference play and coming off a win over Iowa State. Both teams coming off resounding wins in midweek. Kansas trying to stay in the hunt for the #1 seed. And Mike Anderson in his first year, well, he's got the crowd into it. I got to tell you that much. Over 15,000 here this afternoon.
It would be the defining win for Mike Anderson in his first year here at Missouri. And again, they played the Kansas Jayhawks toe-to-toe over in Lawrence. Very confident Mizzou squad steps onto the floor this afternoon.
Mike had 4 successful seasons as a head coach at UAB after being Nolan Richardson's main assistant for so many years. And Bill Self, of course, successful wherever he's been, be it Tulsa or Illinois, or in his 3 years at Kansas here, already 2 regular season titles and 1 conference tourney title. As Jimmy said, they want to up that seed, give themselves a better chance when the NCAAs roll around in about a month. But what it really means is it's border showdown time, and that's what all these fans, especially the Zoo crew over there, is thinking about. Steve Olson, John Higgins, and J.B. Caldwell are officials, and here we go. It's Kansas with the opening tip.
I think early in this game, Kansas would like to get 3 or 4 passes per possession and make Missouri work defensively. They did not do a good job of that in the first matchup.
No, they didn't. They got it to Khan, and his hook shot was off the mark. So back comes Missouri.
Kansas just a blanket defensive squad. Only Texas A&M is better in this league. And Brown lights it up just inside the 3-point line. Great start for Marshall Brown, who I said is their leading scorer as far as conference games are concerned, averaging over 15 a ball game. Missouri thrives off of pressure basketball on the defensive end, Brad. They average 11 steals a ball game, second in the nation. They force 20 turnovers a game. They get 21 points a game off those turnovers. That's that high-pressure defense that Mike learned from Nolan Richardson. Looked like Wright walked, and he did. Traveling violation on Julian Wright. And early in the game, Missouri has locked in defensively for 4 or 5 passes. That's a good sign for Mike Anderson's squad. Here's Hanna at the point, and he gave it up. And this is going to be a coast-to-coast job on the steal by Chalmers. And we talk about the defensive pressure of Missouri, but it's Kansas also that has great defensive numbers. Hanna with a habit pass, and it's ripped to the other end. Boy, and they almost threw it away in the backcourt again. Little 2-man pressure back there with Chalmers and Robinson. Trying to get it inside for the first time, and they do to Grimes. Grimes working to the low block. Nice move, but had it blocked by Sasha Khan. Good play by Khan not to leave the floor until the offensive player left the floor. Right up top at ball level with a block.
Here's Rush with his first touch on the outside, and he knocks it down just inside the three-point line. Brandon Rush, leading scorer for the Jayhawks, gives them the advantage. On the other end, Kahn again altered a shot, and again Chalmers in the open floor. And he's got 2 breakaway shots. He misses this one, though. For the first time, the game is scrambled, and that's what Missouri wants in this building. Three-pointer won't go. And it's Rush with a rebound. Count the passes. There's 2 on this possession. There's the third pass. Rush got his man in the air. He's got to take that shot. That was a good open look. And the rebound comes off to Keon Lawrence. Missouri has to score running the basketball from defense to offense. If it's half court versus half court, the team in blue will walk away with a victory. Speaking of Lawrence, I was going to say he's a big-time three-point shooter, and just at that point, Chalmers put up a 3 and missed it. In the first matchup, less than a month ago, 43% of the shots that Missouri took were three-pointers. They lofted 30 threes, and they only hit 7 of them, and they were in that ball game down to the last shot. And that's too many. And we talked about Kansas' defensive pressure. I think they gamble with a real high IQ. You don't see guys like Chalmers run through the defense without a reason. And there's a good job of an on-ball screen by Kansas again. I think Kansas's half-court offense is better than Missouri at this stage of the season. And this guy, one of the best in the country, Jimmy mentioned, mid-season Wooden All-American candidate, averaging 14.3 a game. He was most people's pick. If they didn't pick Julian Wright, he was most people's pick as being the Big 12 preseason player of the year. Of course, his brother played on the other side. As a 2-time All-Big 12 performer for Missouri. Four-point Kansas lead, and momentarily is silenced this big-time crowd. You can't find a way into this building. It is packed to the rafters. Here's a double team on Hannon, a steal by Russell, and then a walk by Russell. So they got it and gave it right back. Early in this ball game, Stephon Hanna has been loose with the basketball, not only as a passer, but as a dribbler. And you better be tight with that rock in your hands against that Kansas defense. He's 4th in the Big 12 in assists. He's great at stealing the ball himself, and he's got to be more aware for Coach Anderson that he's got to protect it better. He's out of Chipola Community College, so he's a junior. Matt Lawrence hasn't had an open shot yet. He's the big-time three-point shooter. Here he is, number 33, deep ball. Got it! And Brandon Rush has been assigned to Matt Lawrence early in this ball game. I'm not sure Rush is a good enough on-ball defender to keep Lawrence in check. And I mean, that was a 25-footer. Well, that's exactly what Matt Lawrence can do to you, though. Stretch the defense, gets enough of a shape screen up top, and just measures the rim and lets it fly again. He's 6'7". He only jumps about 6 inches, and those are the common threads of great three-point shooters. The same lift, not a lot of lift in their jump shot. His 59th three-pointer of the year. Tops on this team. Has made it a one-point game. Here's Wright in the paint. Nice play. Good turnaround by Julian Wright for his first basket. Flashed right to the sweet spot of that zone and knocked down the 12-footer. That is his strength, 12 feet and in. Here's Grimes trying to back in on Kahn. Got position and just muscled his way underneath. Jalen Grimes' first basket. All the way, Kahn picks up the loose ball. He'll go back up with it with one hand, and Grimes will clear off the miss. And Mizzou's got a chance to regain the lead if they score this trip. Hannon the kick out, Lawrence a triple. Got another one! You have got to run attached to that Lawrence from offense to defense. He is a specialist, and a specialist runs to the three-point line, and he just burned Kansas. Right almost threw it away, but Rush was in the right spot. An 8-2 run here by the Tigers to take the lead back 10-8. Chalmers, long ball for him. Rebound comes off, and it's Keon Lawrence who's done a nice job on the boards here. There you go. Matt Lawrence thought about a heat check. They work it around. Hannon will take a 3. Kahn with the miss. And back come the Jayhawks trying to tie. Good hustle on the baseline, and Missouri comes up with a steal. And here they come the other way. One of those 11 steals. Game and Grimes. Nothing grimy about that. A throwdown with the left hand.
This building has been waiting for a chance to explode. And Kalen Grimes in transition, the one guy that can bump and bruise Kansas all afternoon long, just sent a message.
Well, they haven't completely silenced the Jayhawks, but they do have a 4-point lead. The Tigers up by 4 with 14:58 remaining in the first half. Doing it from the outside and then in transition off the turnover, Jimmy.
Well, great job by Hanna to penetrate, draw the blue jerseys, and there's the specialist spotted up at that three-point line. You've got to be standing on his toes if you're Kansas in this ball game. And look at Sasha Khan get attracted to the ball, and then the ball comes on top of his head, courtesy of Kalen Grimes.
And a chance for a three-point play for Kalen as he'll walk up to the free throw line. 4 points from the strike. Not a great free throw shooter. Last year he was 55%. This year just about half the time. 51% from the strike. But with the timeout and the breather, he's got 5 points. So it's Lawrence with 6 from the outside, Grimes with 5 on the inside. The lead is the biggest it's been at 5. And an 11-2 run. And Missouri's giving Kansas trouble in the backcourt. And a foul in the backcourt is going to be on Hanna. 2 of the SEC's best hitting the hardwood tonight at Rupp Arena. That'll be a beauty. Defending champion Florida taking on the Kentucky Wildcats. Starts off with College Game Day, driven by State Farm at 8 Eastern. Saturday prime time presented by DirecTV, part of Rivalry Week. It's on ESPN HD as well. You don't want to miss that one. If you've never been to Rupp Arena, make a trip sometime. It's one of the best around.
Florida's going to stub their toe on that SEC on the road. It could very well happen at Rupp. And night in and night out, that Florida Gator team is the best team in the country.
There'll be 24,000 there trying to make sure that happens. And Kansas turns it over again. So this is the MO that we talked about. Bill Self knew coming in. He's already seen them once this year. And he knows they're a team that can cause a lot of turnovers. Grimes gets a standing ovation from the section behind the Missouri bench as he'll sit down. And Darrell Butterfield checks in for him. Butterfield actually started the last game 2 games ago. And he gives him some size inside too. Junior out of Miami.
And just in that ball pressure, man-to-man defense. Missouri, if they set screens, they have to make sure they seek out blue jerseys, hold their screen about a half a second longer against a team that pressures you like the Jayhawks.
Hanna's going to try 3 and got it. Hanna's a good 3-point shooter as well. That's his 44th of the year in the lead. Missouri's got the Jayhawks doubled right now.
And Missouri right now comes into this ballgame, Brad. They force 1 turnover every 3.5 possessions by their opponent. Only VMI has a better ratio. So far, they're 1 out of every 4.
There's another one, Jimmy. Let's see if it turns into points the other way. They've made 5 of their last 6 shots. They're on a roll right now, the Missouri Tigers, on their home floor. They're feeling it.
What's their formula for success? Steals and threes.
On the baseline, nice job defensively by Darrell Arthur to knock it out of bounds. There's the numbers Jimmy's talking about. That's just amazing. Every 3.5 trips down court, it goes the other way.
VMI leads the nation in scoring, steals, and assists. Missouri right behind them in that turnover department.
Jason Horton's checked in to the backcourt for Missouri. He's the number 10 assist man in the conference. Lawrence off the inbound. Missed that 3. The first one he's missed, but it's kept alive by Butterfield. And now another 3 en route, and that one short. Neil Lyons probably shouldn't have taken that one. I whistle and a foul, and Lyons magnifies his problems by picking up the foul on the other end.
Leo Lyons got caught up in the energy and the enthusiasm in this building. He's only made 4 3-pointers all year, and Mike Anderson mentally is saying the same thing I just said vocally. What were you thinking?
23 Watkins. Matt Lawrence will get a breather. Chalmers coming back in, and Russell Robinson will sit down. So the inbound play will come from Sharon Collins, who has really been a sensational freshman for this Jayhawk team. And a nice feed inside. And nobody blocked down on Julian Wright, who's got an easy one underneath.
That just cannot happen if you're Missouri. You got to have ball U awareness, get your head on a swivel, be in a defensive stance. When the official hands the ball off, you've got to be ready to play.
That ended a 14-2 Missouri run. Here's Keon Lawrence, and now they're getting 3-point happy. And it's Lyons with a second cheap foul in the last 30 seconds.
We expected this, I mentioned. 33 pointers they took last time, and they only lost by 3 in the last outing between these two teams, so they're not afraid. The one guy that's always got the green light is on the bench right now. That's Matt Lawrence, who's hit 2 of his 3.
Kansas not fighting pressure with pressure. Only 3 guys to bring the ball up the floor. The other 2 head south.
Kansas ranked 8th in the country. They've won 14 of their last 16. Missouri trying to beat them for the 3rd straight year in this building. They have never won in Mizzou Arena. And Mike Anderson just lost the sport coat, or the top half of the suit. I'm not sure which. But things are heating up. And he's had 3 cheap fouls called, 2 on Lyons, and now 1 on Butterfield. He's getting a little bit testy about it.
This is substitution. 32 Volkus enters the game.
Mike Anderson's bench is actually deeper than Kansas's bench as far as pure numbers. Pure quality, I'm not sure.
Right now it's 6-1 in the foul category. Missouri's got 6 and Kansas. Sasha Countess, that 1 on that 3-point play by Grimes. Rush on the outside, gives it back. Collins misses a 3, but underneath, again, Julian Wright. Nobody boxed out, much like the inbounds play a couple of minutes ago.
Well, great job by Wright as an offensive rebounder. He went early to the offensive glass instead of late. Got himself in great position.
Let's see if Missouri even tries to get a touch on the inside. They don't have Grimes in the lineup right now. Butterfield's playing 25 feet away from the hole, and he's going to go up with a 3-pointer. I got a feeling some guys are going to be sitting here pretty soon, Jimmy. That is a good drive, but it might be an offensive foul. And it is. No basket. Keon Lawrence picks up the foul.
The 50-50 calls in this ballgame have not gone in favor of Missouri so far. Looked like Chalmers did get both feet set, and he was stationary before the jump shooter left the floor. Proper call.
Hannah comes in. Lawrence, who just committed the foul, comes out. And now Kansas will be shooting free throws the rest of the way after the next person. And we still got 12-10 to go in the first half. Here comes Brandon Rush. He's got numbers. Gives it up. And it's a foul on Volkus as he pinned it against the glass, but also got his man. So Vitus Volkus picks up the foul. And now, even though that's a shooting foul from here on out, it's the Jayhawks going to the strike.
Well, a great job by Kansas, Brad, to break the pressure. They've gotten away from inbounds in the ball in the coffin corner. They're now trying to keep a ball in the middle of the floor. And when you inbound that ball towards the middle of the floor, boy, things open up for you. You got a foot race now to the other end. The out-of-bounds guy threw it in and then stepped right back in and triggered the break. I like Kansas getting the ball passed in between the hash stripes of that free throw area.
There's Donnell Jackson coming off a career-high game in the thumping of Kansas State earlier in the week. He had 13. He's got his first 2 of this afternoon's matchup. And all of a sudden, it's a 2-point game. Missouri has missed their last 4 field goal attempts, and they've all been 3-pointers. And then you figure in the offensive foul that was called on Keon Lawrence on the last one. So they have been outside shot happy here for the last few minutes. I thought they were going to launch another one. They will. Off the mark again. And Kansas saves it on the baseline. Jayhawks chance to tie this trip or take the lead if it's a 3. Here's a wide open Chalmers. He gave up the 3. And a contested shot followed by Jackson. Tie game.
Once again, Kansas comes in plus 8 rebounds a game. Missouri -7. And the board play of the team in blue starting to swell up numbers right now in this ball game for Bill Self.
Bill Self's team was down 8. They go for 8 straight. And with 11 minutes and 24 seconds left in the half, they've tied it up for only the second time in the ball game at 16 apiece.
Missouri's got to come with some form of size in this ball game. Grimes and Lyons are the 2 guys that are 6'9" that Mike Anderson can put on the floor. Because on the offensive end, you touched on it, Missouri has no resemblance of an inside attack. And on the offensive glass, Kansas is now doing damage because no size for Missouri.
I'm not quite sure why Grimes has come out, Jimmy, unless it's just a fatigue situation. He's back in right now. He's coming back into the lineup. This border showdown, it started in March of 1907. Mizzou won that one by 3. And they weren't shooting threes in that one, by the way. Kansas has a 70-game lead in the series. The last outing, a 3-pointer. And it was Sharon Collins who came off the bench and had a career-high 25 points, 5 rebounds, hit 4 threes, and he had 7 of the final 9 points in that 3-point Kansas win. And a foul on a quick inbound. And the officials sort of facetiously get a round of applause because that's only the second foul on the Jayhawks. It'll be Missouri ball when we come back to Columbia. 11:13 remaining in the first half. Jayhawks, 8th in the country. Missouri giving them all they can handle. Tie ball game here in the first half.
Okay, now what?
Rock, paper, scissors for it?
Okay, that's fair. On 3?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
I threw paper.
I threw a rock.
Refreshingly smooth Bud Light. Always worth it.
Low 5.
Thursday, the event everyone is talking about.
I need to know where the hell Meredith is.
The tragedy no one could have foreseen.
Where exactly is Meredith?
An all-new Grey's Anatomy. Thursday at 9/8 Central, only on ABC.
Remember last week A&M handled Kansas, then they went on to beat Texas. Well, Texas at 6-3 in conference got a decent performance from Kevin Durant today. Not his best, but 17 points, including those 2 plus the free throw. It helped them win 77-68. More of those highlights coming up at the half. Send it back to the game.
All right, Carl. 77-68. Durant an off game and has a big game.
Brett, I think Kevin Durant is the best true freshman to ever play college basketball. And I know that's a big statement, but when you think about the fact that guys like Pete Maravich and Wilt Chamberlain weren't eligible as true freshmen, and then guys like LeBron James jumped straight to the NBA, find a better true freshman in college basketball over the years. It's hard to come up with one. Yes, William Tisdale averaged about 24, and Carmelo Anthony had a bunch of double-doubles, but they didn't do what this kid's done.
Yeah. That's strong, Jimmy.
I just can't find another guy that had that good of a true freshman year.
I'll think about it, but right now I'm busy. Darrell Arthur hits a jumper, and it's a 2-point lead. And so Kansas has come storming back, scored 10 straight points.
Missouri forced 5 turnovers in the first 15 possessions. Kansas has now gone 8 straight possessions without a turnover. That's why they've got the lead.
Whoa. Drives a long one-handed hook shot. Comes up short. Back come the Jayhawks. Now up a pair. Pack it inside and just turning and firing. Good shot by Arthur, but the rebound comes off to Missouri. Chance for the Tigers to even things up. We're almost at the midway point of the first half. And the Tigers get a little careless with the ball. And they turn it over. You can catch an NBA doubleheader on ABC coming up Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern. Tim Duncan and the Spurs take on Dwayne Wade and the Heat. And at 3:30, Kobe and the Lakers take on LeBron James and the Cavs. Starts at 12:30 Eastern with GMC Sunday Countdown. NBA Sunday on ABC, also available in high definition. Had a chance to spend a little time with Greg Popovich the other night, the head coach of the Spurs. They're, of course, on their rodeo road trip because of the rodeo being in San Antonio. So they're playing about 13 days or 16 days on the road, something like that, before the NBA All-Star break. Ball knocked out of bounds. Jimmy had a play on it and didn't dive for it, so they'll inbound right in front of us.
You've got to gamble with a high IQ, and that was not a good place for me to gamble.
That's true, especially with a shirt and tie on.
One that I don't have to have back by Monday morning at 8, by the way. Missouri has to get turnovers.
And the foul is going to be on Tiller. JT Tiller picks up the foul. The fouls continue to mount for Missouri. And the free throw line will be Sherrod Collins. Collins, a freshman out of Chicago. McDonald's a parade All-American, and he's played like it, especially recently.
Mike Anderson's philosophy, Brad, is really pretty simple. It's hard to coach the style he coaches, because what he wants is to not be predictable. He wants kids to take good risks, not bad risks defensively. Be non-predictable with your traps and your pressure, and so far Kansas has handled it well.
And they go on a 12-0 run to take the lead by 4. That matches their biggest advantage of the ballgame. Here's Grimes, one hop, and brings it back outside. Tiller is going to try 3. Kept alive by Brown, and he's fouled. Julian White picks up the personal.
Brad, just with Grimes, though, back in the lineup for Missouri, the offense looks different. They have a guy on the low post now that the blue jerseys must respect. So if Grimes stays involved in this game, 44 in white, Missouri's three-point shooting could come right back into effect.
Marshall Brown, Grimes considered Kansas and Illinois and Georgia Tech and chose Missouri as his college home. Tiller goes out. And at the free throw line, Marshall Brown, 11 points a ball game overall on the season, but over 15 a game in Big 12 play. Left the second one out there. It's a three-point Kansas advantage.
It's a widespread 2-3 zone.
Collins trying to weave through traffic with a little teardrop. Sharon Collins. He's given him a 5-point lead. Biggest advantage of the ball game now for Kansas.
He did exactly what you do against a widespread 2-3 zone. He attacked the teeth and got to the sweet spot.
Missouri hasn't had a field goal in almost 6 minutes. They still don't have one. Rebound comes off to Jackson. Ahead on a run to right. Well, Missouri didn't get back, but it didn't cost him, but they do turn it back over. Collins up and under. Right now, there's no answer for the little guy, number 4.
Well, he is a fire hydrant with a bulldog mentality, isn't he?
He sure is.
Look at that defensive stance right now on the ball by Sharon Collins. Low, quick, tough and strong.
There's a lot of guys that would have liked to have him play college football. He was a great wide receiver and safety. And he's showing some of that on both ends as a receiver and a safety, if you will. Here's the ball swatted out of bounds by Russell Robinson. 7-point lead now for Kansas. Boy, they're making it look easy after being down 16-8. Sharon Collins has come off the Kansas bench and scored 6 straight points. And I mentioned he had 7 of their final 9 when they beat Mizzou 3 weeks ago.
Matt Lawrence right now in white cannot shake free to even get a clear look at the rim.
Missouri just sort of standing around right now. Trying to pack it to the inside. Kansas comes up with a turnover. They've taken the crowd out of it. They've taken the Tigers out of it. And now it's the Jayhawks by 7. Collins for 3. Doesn't drop. The rebound comes off to Lyons.
Brad, Missouri's actually guarding themselves right now in the half court with that lack of movement. The blue jerseys are guarding, and so are the white jerseys.
That's a great point.
There's 33 in white.
And there it goes. Missed. And now they're going to call a foul in the backcourt. That one's going to be on Marshall Brown. So Kansas ranked 8th in the country. A big run of 16-1 to take a 7-point lead. Kansas to lead by 7. And Jimmy, I can play offense the way the Tigers are playing right now.
Yeah, pretty stationary, aren't they? Again, Missouri, the last few possessions, they're actually guarding himself. This is Matt Lawrence right here. Now, he's being guarded by a blue jersey, but he's also guarding himself. And the other white jerseys aren't coming down and getting some screening action on him. I mean, he's stationary on that low block right now, Brad. And this is a guy that's their second leading scorer, a 3-point specialist. You've got to get him open. You've got to run some stuff for him. If Missouri continues to guard themselves, it could be a long afternoon for the Tigers.
Matt hit his first 2 3-pointers. He's missed the last 2. Meanwhile, Kansas will be going to the free throw line the rest of the half because of the early foul situation by the Tigers. Julian Wright, right now the leading scorer for the Jayhawks, with 7. Averaging 11.3 a ball game. Trying to steer that one in and can't. The rebound will come off to Marshall Brown.
Kansas is going to get to that Final Four. That's one of the areas they have to clean up the next 4 weeks. Free throw shooting as a team to be about 4 or 5 percentage points better.
Missouri has missed its last 10 field goals. And they missed that one too, but at least they're going to get a trip to the free throw line in the person of Leo Lyons. Minor college basketball next Saturday on ABC. We'll have regional action for you. You can catch either UConn at Syracuse, Texas A&M takes on Oklahoma, Jimmy Lau, Tennessee, and South Carolina. Check your local listings for the game in your area. Tip-off 3:30 Eastern. For more information, log on to ESPN.com. Brad Nessler and Jimmy Dykes here at a sold-out Mizzou Arena, where Missouri had a lead of as many as 8 at 16-8, and now they've only got 1 point. And Kansas has ripped off a bunch to have the lead they have.
Texas A&M on ABC next week. And Brad, right now, I think there are one of 3 teams in the country on a neutral floor in March could beat Florida. I think only Kansas, North Carolina, and Texas A&M are in that short list.
Texas A&M has been really, what a week they had last week, huh?
Oh boy, AC Law closed out games as you're supposed to as a point guard.
And Wright's double dribble.
But that was a turnover that doesn't result in a speed rush from Missouri from defense to offense. So if you're going to have a turnover and you're Bill Self today, that's the kind you want.
Have one that draws a whistle.
Yep.
Instead of one that draws a layup on the other end. Let's see now if Mizzou can get a field goal. 0 for their last 11 field goal attempts. And they're not going to get a chance. They turn it over instead. And now let's see. Possession arrow is going to go with Missouri. Turnovers, big problem for Missouri. We talk about what they do on forcing turnovers, but they were careless with the ball early, and it really hasn't gotten any better.
Well, when you're playing in a game that goes back to pre-Civil War bitterness, you can't be casual with that basketball, and Stephon Hanna has been way too casual as the lead guard for Missouri.
Underneath, shot is blocked. Still haven't had a field goal in a long time. And a hand is right on the break. Great look by Robinson.
The guards for Missouri, Brad, are 6 feet and 6 feet. They cannot get inside and finish with the length of Kansas at the rim. They've got to drive for others in this ball game and not drive for themselves. They're too small to finish at the 10.
And now again, Missouri settles for a fadeaway 3 by Leo Lyons, who again has taken a couple of, in my opinion, ill-advised shots. Meanwhile, Kansas throws it up there and lets Julian Wright go get it. Boy, the Jayhawks are looking like the number 8 team in the country now, aren't they? They weren't early. And Mike Anderson is looking at Leo Lyons as if to say, you take one more 3-point shot, and you're not coming out for the second half. What are you doing? That's exactly what he's asking.
Yeah. Same thing the rest of the building wants to know, because it's playing right into the Kansas Jayhawks' hands. And we talked about Missouri, how they got to get points off their defense. Kansas is the one sending that message right now.
Well, this is the kind of run that Kansas had in their game earlier this week. They had a 15-2 run to start the ball game. In the rout of Kansas State, 97-70, they won in midweek. So they were a little bit angry after losing last week. In fact, after that shellacking of Kansas State, Lou Perkins there, the athletic director of Kansas, issued an apology yesterday to Bob Huggins and his staff at Kansas State for some of the, I guess, unkind things that maybe the student body had to say to Bob Huggins. And that's the kind of classy guy that Lou Perkins is. And, you know, that's a tough rivalry, Kansas and Kansas State, but when you get a little bit too personal, Lou didn't think it was the right thing to do, so he did what he thought was the right thing to do.
Think about the emotions that Kansas has had to deal with last week. The emotional game against Texas A&M, followed up by Kansas State, and now Missouri. If you're a college kid, that equates to going out and celebrating your 21st birthday, 2 days later, the Super Bowl party, and then 2 days later, a New Year's Eve party. It's hard to get up for 3 parties in a row like that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no kidding.
That's what Kansas has to do this afternoon, and so far they've answered the bell.
Well, Valentine's Day is just around the corner. Let's see who's got the bigger heart today, huh? We've got 5:58 remaining in a half. Lawrence got his man in the air. He gave it up, though, to Hanna. And he's too strong with a 3. Rush coming down court. Leads ahead to Robinson. Trying to get it back to Wright. Boy, Kansas, when they get running, they've got Rush and Wright and Robinson. I was going to say 3 R's, but it's 2 R's and a W. They get it going pretty well.
Because Kansas is dominating on the glass, now the Kansas guards are starting to leak out a little bit. Kansas able to rebound the ball, sending only 3 to the glass, and 2 runners sprinting to the other end.
Speaking of runners, a 21-2 run is giving Kansas an 11-point advantage. 5:42 remaining in the first half. And inbound out to Chalmers. 25 on the shot clock.
Probably as poor of 6 or 7 minute stretch as Missouri has played in the last 3 weeks. They've got to try to close this gap by half and go in and regroup to get this crowd back behind them. Rush for 3.
Brandon Rush, 48th three-pointer of the year. He's got 7, and the lead swells further to 14.
And you've got to blitz Brandon Rush when he touches that basketball. He only has 1 assist per ball game. He's a shooter's mentality. Blitzing, make him do something off the bounce.
Brown, pretty good move, and tipped in by Grimes. Grimes, the only muscle Missouri can muster underneath. And it ends a 24-2 run. Kansas comes right back with 2 more.
They didn't blitz rush with a purpose. When I say blitz someone, you go out and make them do something off the bounce, but then you lock down and contain them. They blitzed, but they blitzed with the wrong package.
Darrell Arthur picks up his second foul on a drop step by Grimes.
Brett, he's the leading scorer. There's not a white jersey in the picture, and this is a guy just floating around that three-point line, trusting the offense to reverse the basketball to him. It's a great job of being patient by Brandon Rush, trusting the offense to bring it back to me. Then they do blitzing a little bit, but it's Matt Lawrence doing the blitzing. 33 in white is not a blitzer. His feet aren't quick enough.
So finally, after an 0 for 13 stretch, that last field goal ended a long drought for Missouri. They'll go back to the free throw line. Rush picks up the foul. That's a first on Brandon. Bill Self, Coach of the Year in the Big 12 last year. 10 straight seasons of 20 or more wins. And, of course, that goes back not just here, or I should say in Lawrence, but his time before that at Illinois and Tulsa.
And we had a great conversation last night. He and I were on the staff together at Oklahoma State. And he said, Jimmy, the difference in being a number 1 or 2 seed is monumental when you drop down to a 3 or 4 seed. And the reason why, if you're at number 1 or 2 seed, you're pretty much protected on that first game, Brad. You're going to advance for the most part. There have been some 2s get upset.
Not some 1s.
You drop to a 3 or 4 now, it is anybody's ball game, and that's what Kansas has been the last 2 years against Bucknell and Bradley. The importance of this game for Kansas, stay in that number 1 or 2 seed position if at all possible.
They're trying to go to 21-4 and 8-2 in the conference with Texas A&M on top by a game in the Big 12. Here's a runner by Rush and a follow with authority by Wright. Boy, and he has been all over the top of that rim today for Kansas.
And again, as an offensive rebounder, he went early to the offensive glass. When Brandon Rush was bouncing that basketball right there, Brandon Wright's coming in from the weak side. He anticipates the shot by Brandon Rush. Always better to be early than late as an offensive rebounder. Brandon Wright has been right on time.
You can almost see Rush's eyes saying as if, you know, if I don't make this, I know he's coming. Yep. You can almost see him looking that way.
Brandon Wright, one of those bouncy athletes around the rim for Kansas.
We're under 4 minutes now, and it's 36-22. Matching the biggest lead of the ball game for the Jayhawks. Missouri gives it up again. Another costly turnover.
Tried to bounce the ball in the low block without a purpose. Just bounced it to be bouncing it.
Grimes will pull off the miss. And now Missouri could find one hot shooter. It would certainly help before halftime.
I think their goal is to get it to 10, and Bill Self's goal is to push it to 20.
Yeah, good point. And now some of those threes that were flying earlier aren't flying so much now because I think of what Coach Anderson said about last time out is Watkins takes it inside. And son of the assistant coach picks up the basket. And Missouri gets a bucket before the timeout. 36-24, 3:05 remaining here in the border showdown during rivalry week.
We played it out. We come from the bottom and knock it out. You have to start.
The beautiful Mizzou Arena, UBS. Halftime reports coming up. Carl will have the upset in Morgantown. Oden and Durant, 2 sensational freshmen today in action, and all the other scores and highlights, and then a preview of what's coming up tonight on the SEC at Rupp, number 1 Florida against Kentucky. As Saturday primetime will take you to Lexington, and that'll be a dandy. Right now, Brandon Rush and Julian Wright are doing all the damage in the last few minutes for the Jayhawks.
And what I like about Kansas, though, in the second half, it could be Sharon Collins and Mario Chalmers. Yep. And in the next ball game, it could be Russell Robinson and Darrell Arthur. I mean, that's the balance that we saw out of Florida last year about this time. Grimes is your low post threat. He's the only one, 44 in white. He's got to get involved, at least with a touch.
He's asking for it down there. They can't seem to find him, and it's a runner by Darrell Butterfield. field. And now a turnover in the backcourt. And rejected out of there by Rush. Could have been a nice little turn of events. Missouri showing some spunk right now, though.
Kansas has turned it over now twice in a row against the Missouri full court pressure.
As you said, they're at 10 right now. They'd like to get it down to single digits, and they have it right now down to single digits.
I talked about why Bill Self wanted to push it out to 20 because he knows in this building, turnovers and quick baskets and the lead can really shrink on you. That's exactly what's happened to him.
Coach Self calls a timeout, and he looks at his players as if to say, that's the biggest wasted 30 seconds I've ever seen. So now it's back to an 8-point ball game, and all of a sudden the crowd is back into it. 8-2 run for Missouri.
In this game, Brad, Missouri is only getting one turnover about every 7 possessions out of Kansas. I go back to how they win games. They get one turnover every 3.5 possessions. The last 2 or 3 times, they've turned them over, right back in the ball game.
So 2.5 to go in the half, and Kansas lead has been diced down to 8. It was 14. There's what Jimmy's talking about. Number 1 team in the country is VMI. Every 3 possessions, or 2.9 if you want to get technical. And that's amazing. You think about how many trips are taken down court during the course of a game. You can start getting it back and then making it pay. As I said, Missouri gets 21 points off the 20 turnovers they force a game. That's what's got the Zoo crew involved down there. Here's some backcourt pressure again.
Get ready to see how Kansas is going to break this press. The timeout, you know they talked about it. Run the baseline, bring a big up from the timeline for your pressure release.
And then almost threw it away trying to get it to Brandon Wright. Wright handling the ball well. Kick out to Rush for 3. Oh, wow. How about that? Rush almost threw the pass away. Wright had to go behind his back just to find Rush again outside the arc, and he knocks down his second 3 of the game. And then Kansas forces a turnover.
What I like about that jump shot by Brandon Rush, he didn't get in a rush. I mean, he plays the game to the speed that he wants to play, whether it's in transition or in the half court. Guys put up big numbers when they do that.
Here he is across the timeline, gets it ahead to Wright. Oh, man, on the baseline. Wow. He went in from 10 feet out and still slammed it home, and he'll have a chance for a 3-point play. Doggy. Oh, that is a long way to fly. You know, sometimes you have flights that are non-stops, and then you have some that are little puddle jumpers. I think this is a non-stop flight.
From outside the lane. Wow. You recruit that. You do not teach it.
Doesn't get the 3-point play, but he'll get on SportsCenter sometime later, I'm sure. 2 minutes left in the half. 13-point ball game. And again, a lazy pass. That one thrown by Horton.
Habit, lazy, casual passes will not work against Kansas.
Collins misses on a drive. Jackson cleans up for him. Darnell Jackson, he and Sharon Collins both coming off the Kansas bench, and both have 6 points here in the first half. And now we got a technical on Mike Anderson. And 1:25 to go in the half. Mike's teed up.
Well, Mike chewed on that ear for about 5 or 6 seconds. And finally, the official had enough. John Higgins said, Coach, I've given you time to express yourself. But then finally, trigger words were said. Mario Chalmers is now at the free throw strike because of it.
He can add to a 7 straight run in the last 37 seconds, and does. It's 8-0. And this is similar to what happened at the end of the ball game last year here, when Missouri came from 7 down in 34 seconds to make it a ball game. So now it's 9 straight points in 37 seconds for Kansas, and they now have the biggest lead they've had so far.
And here it is. Talking. Mike Anderson doesn't give up on it. Finally right there. Boom. Coach, I've had enough.
think the first 2 words were okay. I think the last 2 weren't so good.
Batting 50%.
Yeah, he was good there for a half.
Oh, what a spurt by Kansas, huh, in the last 2 minutes.
Wow. They really haven't looked back from the time they were down 16-8, although Missouri had made it an 8-point game before the wheels fell off after the technical on their coach. Now we got 65 seconds left in the half, and it's 45-28. 17-point lead, Kansas.
Technical foul certainly didn't help, but the biggest problem has been shot selection, lack of inside scoring from Missouri,
and stupid turnovers, lazy
turnovers.
passes.
You got that right.
Let's see if they can find a way to get a field goal here in the final minute of play. And 10 seconds on the shot clock.
Missouri needs a really good 57 seconds right here to try to stay in touch.
That was not it. They turn it over again. And a timeout taken by Kansas. So they don't even get a shot off. Kansas gets the timeout, and a frustrated Mike Anderson not happy with his team. I know he's had to take a big, deep breath over there and say, okay, I got to get myself calmed down or I'll never get my team calmed down. And he has done that. Or so it appears, but he's still letting Hannah have it.
And that Hannah's trying to tell him, coach, you're slapping at me. Forget all that. That's nonsense. If you're Mike Anderson, that's what you tell Stephon Hannah. You may not get those calls. This is a big boys league right now. When you dribble that basketball and you're loose with it, you better protect it. And right now, Stephon Hannah trying to give an excuse to Mike Anderson as opposed to accepting responsibility.
You know, in 1907, when Missouri won this game 34-31, the foul situation was probably no autopsy, no foul. You know, no call. So you can't worry about the hand slaps.
Not at all.
There's what Rush has done so far in the first half. A couple of big three-pointers that have been momentum swingers. And he's got 6 rebounds, and he's really been rebounding well. 3 of the last 4 games, he's had 8 rebounds or more. Here he is to inbound in the backcourt.
Held on to it too long. He just invited the double team.
And a nice play by Keon Lawrence to pick it up underneath and score.
Brad, you know the double team's coming. Catch, face up, and get rid of it. He just invited white jerseys on top of it.
Final 35 seconds here. Again, some backcourt pressure. Hannah trying to swipe the ball away from Collins. They're trying to trap him, and they finally get the trap, and they get the ball. Back-to-back turnovers.
And Collins invited the double team by bouncing it too many times.
Boy, this would be a big 3. It goes for Lawrence.
I said they needed a really good 57 seconds, and they have responded.
If they don't let Wright slam this. He misses it, but it's followed in by Jackson, who went up with one hand to the left hand and put it home. Final 4-5 seconds. Got to be aware of it. Take a jumper. Looked like a foul maybe, and no call. Apparently got the ball. Keon Lawrence. Fans think it was a foul and a 3-point attempt. But no call, and at halftime, it's a 14-point advantage. 47-33. Disappointed crowd here. We saw Missouri jump out to a big lead early, and 8th-ranked Kansas came rolling back. UBS halftime report is coming up next. Mike Anderson still out here with the rest of the crowd. His team's in the locker room, down 14.
ESPN's college basketball presented by KFC. Brought to you by the United States Postal Service. Let your packages know their ride is here. And Lincoln, reach higher. We'll be back with the UBS halftime report after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
Hey, what's up?
Wade.
I can use some help.
It's heavy.
Yes, it is. My dream is to leave the world a better place than I found it. Good job, buddy. Yo! Hey, coach.
The new 2007 Lincoln Navigator with enough room for a basketball team. Life's calling. Where to next?
We played it out. We come from the bottom and knock it out. We have to start.
Back in Missouri at Mizzou Arena, our college basketball presented by KFC as Missouri's hosting the number 18 in the country. And I'm sure Mike Anderson, the head coach of the Tigers, has ripped them down a little bit in the locker room. Now he's trying to build them back up. They trail by 14. I'm also sure, as we welcome you back, Brad Nessler, Jimmy Dykes, one of the things he said is, you know what? You can't turn the ball over 12 times in the first half against number 18 in the country. You're not going to win.
He's probably saying, let's all make a pact right now. 20 minutes from now, when we go back in the locker room, let's at least play tough and play with an aggressive attitude and not be casual with the basketball. Too loose for the Missouri Tigers in that first half against the second-best defensive team in the Big 12, or the Kansas Jayhawks, and Julian Wright, Brad, just took over around the rim, making plays above the rim that Missouri can't make, either off of an alley-oop or just attacking himself. This guy was a monster in the first half, and he was really complimented well by that overall game by Rush, because look at the Green makes. He was on the right side, the left side of the floor, took some threes, some long twos, and some stuff around the rim. That's what makes him hard to guard.
Julian Wright had 15 points and 4 rebounds. Brandon Rush had 12 points and 6 rebounds, and they've got Kansas the lead and the ball as we start the second half here in Columbia. So the big run by Kansas as they put together a 24-2 run in that first half. And they open up by lobbing it inside to Kahn, and he misses in close.
It was a perfect pass, though, right at the side of the rim. That all falls on Kahn's shoulders.
Missouri would love to get an opening field goal. They had a long drought in the first half where they couldn't score a field goal or from the free throw line, and what they do get is the first foul on Russell Robinson in the ballgame. They were tied twice in the first half at 2 and at 16, and at one point Missouri had a 16-8 lead, but then the lead swelled to as many as 17 for the Jayhawks in the first half. They led 45-28 at one point.
Missouri plays with a gambler's mentality. They took 17 two-point shots in the first half, as opposed to Kansas taking 28 two-point shots. Higher percentage basketball out of Kansas.
Well, the fouls are evening it off here to open up the second half. Sasha Kahn picks up the second. Talk about wasting some shots, though. 16 three-pointers Missouri took. That is ahead of the pace the first time they played these guys. We were talking about earlier in the ball game, the three-point loss 3 weeks ago in Lawrence. They shot 33s. Well, they're ahead of that pace right now. And they're getting some of those three-point attempts from guys that probably don't have any business taking three-point shots.
Leo Lyons, Caitlin Brown, fill in the blank and keep going.
That's right. Here's Lawrence for 3. They don't maybe mind him taking one, but he missed it, and Kansas will clear it off.
Missouri only got one turnover every 4.5 possessions by Kansas in the first half. That's not good enough numbers for Missouri.
Darrell Arthur, great post-up move on the right block, and a one-hand hook shot off the glass. Good-looking shot as Arthur has 4 off the Kansas bench.
You've got to make Kansas work defensively. You got to move with a purpose. You got to set screens. You got to come off the screens with an attitude of scoring.
Here's Brown on the drive. Wright might have gotten a piece of it. Grimes going to give it back to Hannah. The little guy inside just muscles one up and in.
Interesting that Grimes turned down a 5-footer to give it up to Hannah on the block.
I was thinking that. Turned down a 5-footer to give it up to a guy that's 5'11". Here's Robinson for 3. Nope, there's a whistle on the foul before the shot. And it's on Hannah on the other end.
And I've mentioned Missouri not turning Kansas over. Mike Anderson's squad, second in the nation, getting 1 turnover every 3.5 possessions per game. Right now they're on a 1 turnover every almost 5 possessions. That will not work against Kansas in this building.
And walk on Chalmers.
Florida, UCLA, Wisconsin, North Carolina, I think would be #1 seeds if the selection committee met this afternoon. Kansas, Ohio State, Texas A&M, and maybe Kentucky, if they win tonight, would be your #2 seeds.
There's an open 2 for Matt Lawrence. He's a big three-point shooter. Knocks down a deuce. 2 minutes in to the second half. Lead at 12. Right out on top of the circle here. Here's a drive by Rush and gives it up to Wright. He'll take a 3. And the rebound off to Hannah.
A miss is like a turnover for Missouri.
See if they can capitalize on the other end. Hannah lost the handle. No, it's Lawrence. Excuse me. A turnover. And on the other end, they don't get back, and Robinson scores. That's his first field goal.
And Brad, Hannah and Keon Lawrence are both about 175 pounds, and just a little bit of contact in this game has really bothered those two small guards from Missouri.
Here's Hannah. He's going to take a three, and got it. His second three-pointer of the ball game. Down to 11. Robinson just running the other way. White trying to follow. The rebound comes off to Marshall Brown. Missouri trying to get something to happen. That was a stray ball, but Grimes was able to pick it up. And Hannah's bumped by Robinson again. And a foul on Russell Robinson, his second. Take a look at the Cisco game track. Kansas 32 on the inside. Julian Wright, most of those with 15. And Missouri in that first half took 16 three-point shots. They've taken a couple in this half now, but Hannah hit the last one. And that's what's closed the gap down to 11. Missouri only has 14 points in the paint compared to Kansas 32. Here's another three in Roots. This one's way off the mark. Collins trying to leave it underneath to Wright. He missed once. He won't miss the second time.
Do you see what the strength that Sharon Collins did, Brad, against those small Missouri guards? Just gets his shoulder into him and takes the ball anywhere he wants on the floor right now.
He's not necessarily taller. He's just stronger.
Exactly.
He's packed in like a football player that he was in high school. Here's a steal by, and that might be an intentional foul on Lawrence, who was reaching out there. Matt Lawrence picks up the foul as Missouri turns it over again. And it was a story behind the film. World Trade Center, ABC Sunday. We're going to honor a hero of 9/11. One brave man's act of courage will be repaid and inspire us all, because it's a special 2-hour extreme makeover home edition Sunday at 7, 6 Central, only on ABC. Brad Nessler and Jimmy Dykes with you from Columbia, Missouri, where the Tigers led at one point in the first half by 8. Kansas is led by as many as 17. They've got a 13-point cushion here. And Julian Wright trying to make it 15. And a whistle was inside and play continued. See if we had a foul inside of him and over the back. And the foul is going to be on Stefan Hannah, I believe. And that's his third. He looks a little lost as to where the foul came from. He still can't believe it.
The first game, Kansas won, but Bill Self told me we actually played a little too fast. And Kansas has ran with a high IQ in this ball game today, Brad, but when they've had to work the ball and massage it 4 or 5 touches, they've also done that really well.
I think the officials are going to at least take a look at this and see if indeed it was a foul on Hannah. Hannah had that look like I wasn't anywhere near the ball. What are we talking about here? And as he came down, I guess if he swiped his hand there, that's where they called it.
I'm on the reach.
And we're not 100% sure yet. Whether it's a shooting foul, I guess, is what they were trying to determine. And it's Julian Wright at the free throw line.
And Brad, this is an area that Kansas has to get better over the next 3 or 4 weeks. And head coaches that realize it's February the 10th, where can we get better over the next 3 or 4 weeks? I think they got things figured out. And Bill Self talked about, for us to get to the Final Four, we've got to go from a 67% team to about a 72% team from that free throw strike. We also have to be able to lock down teams in the last 5 minutes and get back-to-back stops. And their 4 losses this year, talking about Kansas, they have not been able to get back-to-back stops in the last 2 or 3 minutes of the game.
They're doing a lot better from the free throw line in this game than they have been. You're right. And the lead goes to 15 as Wright knocks down his 2. 17 for Julian, and he'll get a little breather, a well-deserved one. He's played well on both ends of the floor. And Missouri had made a nice little push again to start the half, and now we're 4 minutes in, and they're finding themselves buried again. Down by 15, unless they can find some offense. And then whistle and a foul as Tillery tried to drive to the basket. He's fouled by Russell Robinson. That'll be his third. We're under 16 minutes. 8th-ranked Kansas on the road with a 15-point cushion.
ESPN's college basketball presented by KFC and the new Buffalo Snacker. And Kia Motors. Kia, the power to surprise.
Some brave Kansas fans who've made their way in here, and some families that are split right down the middle. And rivalry week, the Zoo Crew looking on. They were really fired up earlier as their team had the lead, but now they trail by 15 here in rivalry week, presented by Cisco. Julian Wright, 19 points, and Hannah's got 15 the other side for Missouri.
I talked in the first half about how good I think Florida is on a neutral floor in March. I think right now there's only 3 teams that could knock the Gators off, Brad. Kansas, and North Carolina, and Texas A&M. What do they all have in common? They can really score the basketball, and they can really defend. Those 3 teams are complete. They're deep enough and talented enough to beat Florida. And right now, I think those are the only 3 that could pull it off.
Of course, Kansas will try to upset Florida tonight at Rupp. On Saturday prime time on ESPN. Here's a steal. Hannah going the other way, trying to protect his body, and scores with a left hand. 14 for Hannah. We had him for 15 early, as 14 now. And now the trap in the backcourt. But they get it across the timeline, and there's nobody home. Oh, Grimes was home. What a recovery by Grimes, huh? He covered a lot of ground. Tiller is going to go to the free throw line. Grimes, leading shot blocker for the Tigers, and Jimmy and I don't think you thought he was going to get there either, did you?
Look at the amount of distance that Grimes covers, about 15 feet on the flight of the ball. And that's what Missouri has to do. When they trap the basketball, it's not so much how good the trap is, it's what's going on away from the trap and the scramble out of the trap and the relocation to guys with the basketball. Terrific hustle play by Kalen Grimes.
Here's J.T. Tiller, the freshman out of Marietta, Georgia, at the free throw line. Knocks down his first points. Wright comes right back in. Arthur goes out. Tiller originally had signed at UAB when Mike Anderson was there, and then followed him here. And is one of the freshmen that gets a lot of playing time. Missed the second free throw.
Missouri can't get their press set because they missed the second free throw. They need to be almost perfect in the second half from that charity stripe.
They're going to have to be perfect pretty soon every trip on both ends just to get back in the game. Trailing by 13. Pull up by Wright off the glass. Sweet shot. Not a lot of people make that one anymore. You don't know how to use the glass sometimes. He's got 21. He's closing in on a career high day. Having a great afternoon here on the road at Columbia. Tiller walked with it, slipped a little bit as he tried a turnaround jumper. And the Tigers give it right back.
And the contact that goes uncalled in this game has really bothered Missouri. There's always contact in the ball game, Brad, that goes uncalled. It's really bothering the team in white.
Yep, there's some that is called, and that's a foul on Tiller.
Missouri foul on number 4.
Great job by Sharon Collins in the last possession. Drag the defense. A guy that's a true freshman, number 4 in blue, knows how to run a basketball team.
Brandon Rush waits and waits until Wright comes open. Right now, leaves it off, and they bring it back out. Smart basketball by Kansas right there, as they had a 2-on-2 and decided to set a play or try to.
Missouri locked down now and get a stop after 4 or 5 passes.
Wright thought about a 3, gives it up to Chalmers for a triple. Kept alive by Jackson. Now Rush for 3. Got it.
Dagger, huh?
Yep. Big shot by Brandon Rush, and the lead goes back swelling to what it was earlier in the game. Biggest lead, 17.
Kansas shoots it too well to give him 2 opportunities in a possession.
Grimes trying to go to the rack, and he's fouled on the inside.
2 possessions ago, Sharon Collins did a great job of dragging the defense. Watch what he does when number 4 gets the basketball right here. He's going to drag 2 defenders with him. Look at all this attention that he attracts. Drag the defense with him, and now make the pass to the guy that rolls to the rim. But he dribbled that basketball, Brad, with the sole purpose, I'm going to drag you with me and free up my buddy about 15 feet from the rim.
Kalen Grimes, his 8th point, his first of the second half. Ian Lawrence coming back in. Matt Lawrence goes out. Grimes, a junior out of St. Louis, has dropped about 15 or 20 pounds, has made him lighter on his feet. He had a good first half, including a monster dunk on a transition basket. He was a backup center last year to Kevin Young. And he's their only inside presence, or the only one that we've seen so far today. Now he's going to get a breather. And Leo Lyons comes in. But Lyons is not the inside player that Grimes is.
Full court press gets set off of the second made free throw by Missouri.
Chalmers quickly into the front court. Wright can really handle the ball for a big guy, can he? It's a nice job. Rush. Gets the pass over. It's going to be another foul on Hannah, and that's 4 on Stefan Hannah. Well, at times Missouri looks lost. Speaking of which, terrible segue, but Lost is back, and it's bigger than ever. All new episodes every week. Now at a new time, 10, 9 Central, only on ABC. Jack's still in trouble. At least Kate got off the island. I think she did anyway.
Ben's life is in the hands of Jack.
Very much so. Hannah sits down with 4. Those of you that don't watch Lost have no idea what Jimmy and I are talking about. But you should be watching Lost because there's 15 straight new episodes coming up all the way to the end of the year. Wright had it knocked away. Somehow got it back. Lyons blocked the shot and then trying to save it, and doing so on the baseline. Nice hustle by Butterfield.
Kid that plays with a jackhammer mentality is Butterfield. A lot of effort. So in desperate need of a good couple of minutes.
Nice look by Lyons to Butterfield on the back door. Minutes left. Rush, pick and roll with Jackson. He's fouled on the baseline. Basket will not count.
Kansas, one of the few breakdowns they've had in their half-court defense. See the screener just slip to the rim right here, and you got guys ball watching instead of ball you man watching, and Missouri makes them pay. But every time Kansas feels the game getting scrambled, they've done a good job of stopping the game by getting fouled and slowing the game back down.
They got fouled a minute ago to stop play. Now the lob underneath to Rush from Collins.
They will try that play about once every ball game. If you fall asleep across the back line, large knot is put on head.
Rush has got 17. Wright's got 21. Jason Horton gives it up to Lyons. Lyons trying to get his second dime to Butterfield in a row. And they turn it over. Rush is going to get a quick breather. Russell Robinson will go out. Rush has had a great game. Really smooth player. Just looks effortless to him sometimes. With his ball handling, how he gets the ball to his teammates, the rebounding, and he's, as Jimmy told us, the shot selection, especially in the first half, did a little bit of everything. Oh, what a nice lob inside. And Wright's got 23. That matches his career high.
Timeout, Missouri.
Timeout taken by Missouri. Julian Wright, his previous best was 23 points against Rhode Island. He's got 23 now here in the border showdown. It's 64-47. Jayhawks have matched their biggest advantage of the ball game, up 17. How are they doing it, Jimmy?
Well, a lot of things are going right for Kansas. Their execution is right on target. Missouri, now last time they were trying to press, they had a lack of awareness. This is the guy right here that Kansas is trying to get the basketball to. He's in the middle of the floor. Rotate up, have an awareness of where guys are. They don't do it. And not only do they not have an awareness and take that pass away, then they also don't stop the basketball. But it's just a lack of awareness right now from Missouri. And then you see the hammer at the other end. And Mike Anderson talked about it yesterday. New philosophy, new system, teaching guys when to rotate, when not to, when to trap, when not to. Right now, things aren't going too well for them in that area.
No, they're not. They've already won 2 more games than all of last year, but it would take a miracle comeback here against the 8th-ranked team in the country if they're going to win a 3rd straight from Kansas in this arena. Nice drive by Lyons, and he draws a foul from Jackson. It's been too much of a rush, and things have gone too right for Kansas today because Julian Wright's got a career-high 23. Brandon Rush, who's sitting on the bench getting a breather, has got 17. In fact, if you go back to 7:38 remaining in the first half, between that guy and number 30, they have scored 34 of Kansas' last 42 points. That's a little lopsided.
And again, what I like about Kansas is their next ball game, it could be two other guys or a combination of Wright and someone else. And that's the common thread that Florida had going for them last year in that tournament. Who do you take away and who else steps up to beat you?
Of course, Florida will put their long winning streak on the line at Rupp Arena on Saturday primetime on ESPN tonight. The College Game Day crew will get that thing going at 8 o'clock. Tip-off at 9 Eastern. Nice ball movement by the Jayhawks, and nobody takes a shot. They don't really need one. Here's Collins underneath. The follow by Wright. He doesn't get it, but he gets his own miss. Feeds Jackson for the reverse layup. Nice unselfish play there.
And Brad, again, the strength and the length of Kansas is just wearing out Missouri in this ball game.
Lyons comes up short. Matt Lawrence lost the rebound. Kansas looking to run. Lob time. And a new career high for Julian Wright. He can add to it from the free throw line. 25 points for Julian Wright. And some of those seats aren't the greatest, but they're looking pretty good right now because their team is up by 18. And it might get to 19 after this timeout. The dime by Robinson. And the kiss falls down for Wright. He's got 25 points. Tonight, there's Valentine treats for the whole family, starting at 8/7 Central with a Charlie Brown Valentine, followed by Winnie the Pooh, a Valentine for you. Oh, Kennedy Dykes is going to be watching that one.
Yes,
then at 9, 8 Central, Steve Martin and Queen Latifah star in Bringing Down the House on the Saturday Movie of the Week, all coming up tonight on ABC.
I can hear it now in the Dykes household.
Pooh, Pooh, Pooh. Well, things started off, they've kind of gone to poo here for the Tigers here in the second half. They're down 20 now. It could get worse as Julian Wright's at the free throw line trying to cap a three-point play as he was fouled on that last bucket. He's got a double-double, his fourth of the year, 10 boards to go with a career-high 25 points, and he can add to it right here. He was on the preseason watch list as the All-Big 12 Player of the Year along with his buddy Brandon Rush, and I can see why, because between the two of them, they got 43 points and a whole bunch of rebounds.
And Julian Wright has taken every opportunity that Kansas has given him today. He hasn't forced himself. At times he tries to do too much over the last 3 weeks, but not in this ball game. He has been right on target with his decisions on the offensive end.
And the pull-up three, rebound comes off to Russell. Russell the outlet to Collins on the run, and Collins lays it in. Boy, that's good fast break basketball there.
Missouri standing and watching. The guards don't rotate on the shot. All five guys have to be in motion on the release of the basketball if you're Missouri or Kansas. Move with a purpose, huh?
This arena's been sold out 4 times in its existence, and Missouri was 3-1 with 2 of the wins coming over Kansas, and that's not going to happen today. We're at the 10.5-minute mark remaining. It's all Jayhawks right now. Jackson feeds underneath, knocked away out of bounds. Would have been Julian Wright with another easy bucket, but Matt Lawrence got a hand on it. Well, Kansas has won 20 or more games, 18 straight years. 17 of their wins this year of the 20 they've had have been by 10 or more points, and here they are up 23. Lob pass right. Collins on the right spot. 28 for Julian Wright.
Same play, same result. That lack of awareness thing again cost Missouri.
Grimes turnaround jumper. He's had a good ball game. Jalen Grimes just not enough of Grimes. I guess he's got 11. Brandon Rush is getting extended rest on the bench. Maybe he's done for the day. And Wright might soon be. This time the baseline jumper won't go. Keon Lawrence almost lost the handle on the rebound. Matt Lawrence, long three. Got it. He'll use a lot more of those in this ballgame. He hit his first 2. Hasn't hit one since until right now.
Hasn't been able to shake free, has he?
Nope. Does have 11 points. 3 of his are triples. And a great drive again. I want to say a little guy, but he's so strong I don't want to say that. He is 5'11", but he's built like a fullback. And he's got 10 points now. Sharon Collins, who had his career high in the first matchup between these two teams when he had 23. Here he is for 2 more.
Brad, he's only 5'11", but when he decides to take the basketball from one part of the floor to the other, he shrinks down to about 5'6", so he's a fire hydrant with a bulldog mentality going towards that rim. And his upper body strength and leg strength has really knocked those Missouri guards off of the path today.
McDonald's in parade All-American, doesn't cap off the three-point play. He's in double figures, along with Darnell Jackson. Those two guys off the bench both have 10.
And Ty Lawson at North Carolina was a higher-rated point guard coming out of high school ball last year. How good Sharon Collins is.
They're built a little alike. Yeah, they are. Grimes, nice turnaround jumper by Kalen. And they'll have a chance to make it a three-point play as he's fouling the act.
Kansas foul on Arthur, his 4th.
And that one's on Darrell Arthur, his 4th foul.
Brad, you and I saw North Carolina last week. Didn't see them at their best. Certainly North Carolina State had a lot to do with it. But you just look at the athletes and the style and how they carry themselves. Kansas and North Carolina, certainly Florida is the leader of that pack, and Texas A&M, because what they were able to do last Saturday up in Lawrence. I think right now those are the 4 teams that will really attract your eyes as we head towards March.
We're not that far away. Nope. About a month, the ball left, and then we'll know where everybody's going.
UCLA losing today, and again, that's a team that's in the conversation for #1 seed in that NCAA tournament. Again, if you're #1 or #2 seed, you're pretty much protected that first game. A 3 or 4 seed is not. That's what Kansas has a purpose in their step right now because of that.
Well, that's a big win for West Virginia because they don't have the guys they had a year ago. It wouldn't have shocked me a year ago. It shocked me a little bit today. Rush trying to keep it alive. Matt Lawrence pulls it off the backside. 75-56. And Hannah, I don't know where he was going with it. But instead, he gets tied up. He'll keep the ball. And he's been out of control at times today. And I'm sure that'll be pointed out to him. For a guy that came in 4th in the conference in assists. And a 3-time Big 12 Rookie of the Week. He's been a little bit rattled today.
You're right. He drove that basketball with no purpose. Defense was built in with shadow defenders and went right to him.
Lawrence on the inside. And Matt's got 13. Full court heat again. Now they'll clear out for Russell Robinson.
If it was a 10-point game, the team in blue might feel a little pressure right now. But being up 75-58, a lot of confidence just playing with the rhythm.
And a rare turnover. Collins had too much zip on that pass, and Rush couldn't handle it. Rush says, my fault. I was there, and the pass was too. But that baby was traveling at the speed of light. And Rush, very similar numbers, only today he's done it so smoothly that it doesn't seem like 17. Hannah scores again. Missouri trying to make a little push.
No, they're only 5 points off that 10-point margin that they'd love to be at right now.
Trying to get a trap. Instead, they get Robinson to turn it over. Well, Mizzou's got it back to 15. 7:52 remaining in the ball game at Columbia.
All right, you're a small business. Well, this is you, and these are all the things you have to do today. You're growing your business, you're designing stuff. Now you're shipping stuff, getting phone calls, tracking stuff, more phone calls, more tracking. Now, wouldn't it be great if someone could help you with all this? Like UPS. There. Now you're doing what you love. It's not your small business. It's your small business with UPS. Let's give you a tie. Big meeting today.
Okay, class. If you're in the South, you say, hey, feller, give me a Bud Light.
Hey, feller, give me a Bud Light.
In New York, you say, hey, give me a Bud Light. You got a problem with that?
Bud Light, you got the problem with that.
In East LA, you say, give me a Bud Light, Holmes.
Give me a Bud Light, Holmes.
More importantly, if somebody asks you for a Bud Light, you say,
don't speak English.
Refreshingly smooth Bud Light. Always worth it.
Bud Light?
Bud Light.
Bud Light.
Bud Light.
In our ESPN on ABC College Basketball Studios, I'm Carl Ravitch. Kansas currently ahead by 15 points, so we're going to get you back out to the conclusion of that game in just a bit. Take you to Oregon and Arizona. This is a Pac-10 showdown in which Arizona is up by 4. We talked all season about freshmen. Chase Buddinger's got 28 points for Arizona. 4 points separate the two. There's less than 2 to play. After this commercial, we're going to get you out to the game, and then we'll show you the conclusion of Kansas after that. Thank you very much, Brent. We appreciate that. So a huge win for Arizona. They really needed it. Now, next Saturday, they're going to get UCLA at home. So very much a chance to increase their postseason resume. And the freshman gets it done. Chase Budinger, one of the things we've seen all year, folks, in college basketball. He becomes the 21st freshman this year to go for 30 or more points. Unheard of, but because of the rule prohibiting freshmen that age to go to the NBA, so many of them are shining on the national scene. We see it today from Chase Budinger. Meantime, other Big 12 action going on, and we'll get you back to the Kansas game in just a second. Texas Tech and Oklahoma State are locked up in a 61-61 game. Bogan's got 21. Mario's got 7 rebounds to go with that. Oklahoma State hasn't lost at home this season. Both of these teams could benefit. Kansas saw their lead shrink to 12. It's back up to 15. They are under 4 minutes to go in Missouri. And when that game concludes, we'll update you on the rest of the day in college basketball.
So the lead that swelled to 23 in the second half is at 15. Keon Lawrence trying to cut into it and got 1 of 2 from the free throw line. But Missouri is running out of time with just under 4 minutes remaining in the ball game. The 8th-ranked Jayhawks have played very, very well here on the road after some early struggles in the first 5 or 6 minutes. And Missouri was really fired up and doing everything right. Kansas wasn't, but since that time, it's been all Jayhawks.
Brad, we're watching the Kansas team playing with a purpose today of trying to work their way in to a possible #1 seed at that NCAA tournament. They got some help today with UCLA losing, but they are certainly in the conversation with 5 or 6, 7 teams right now for #1 overall seed.
Wisely, they're using some clock, and then they get a good shot, and they might get a long rebound. Oh, it's going to come off to Missouri. Chance for Missouri to cut it to a dozen. Lawrence on a crossover dribble had it tipped by a defender, and our Lions will try 3. Underneath. There's going to be a foul on Julian Wright. Julian Wright, if you're just joining us, has had the game of his life. 31 points and 11 rebounds. A career-high day for the 6'8 sophomore out of Chicago Heights, Illinois. Stefan Hanna, the leading scorer for Mizzou. He fouled out at the 5:11 mark with 19 points. And now even the free throws aren't dropping for Missouri, and that's not going to help their cause. Lyons comes out, Butterfield comes in, Jackson goes out, and Sharon Collins, who's been brilliant off the bench, number 4, the 5'11 freshman. I want to call him a 5'11 freshman muscle man because he has muscled the guards of Missouri here today in his first season in this matchup that has gone back 100 years.
Missouri, has missed 6 or 7 second free throw opportunities in this ball game, so they cannot get their full court press set up. And the big storyline why Kansas has this 14-point lead.
Collins again, the freshman in there playing the point, and that's how much Bill Self has confidence in him. And here's another freshman picking up a foul. JT Tiller gets his 3rd.
Brad, you see scores coming in across the country today. Talk about UCLA losing at West Virginia. Arizona goes on the road in the Pac-10 and knocks off Oregon. That's a team that's ranked in the top 15 towards the top of the Pac-10. I am one guy that doesn't buy into the Pac-10 as the strongest conference this year, and I'll tell you why. North Carolina 2 weeks ago flew across the country and just put a smoke job on Arizona.
Worst loss in Luke Olson's history.
And then Arizona goes up and beats Oregon, and then UCLA gets beat by, just a pretty good West Virginia squad. I have not bought in to the Pac-10 being as strong as a lot of folks have tried to talk us into being this year. I know they're good, but they are not the best conference in the country, in my opinion.
And the overall strength of the conferences, the ACC and the SEC, that Jimmy and I see the most. Shows in 8 tourney predictions.
Well, those are projections that I thought maybe coming into the day, but with UCLA losing and Kansas winning on the road, those are 2 teams that could swap out right now. But again, like Bill Self told me last night, it's February the 10th. So much can change between now and 4 weeks from tomorrow. And teams play their way in, they play their way out of the tournament. They also play their way into the #1 seed, or they can play their way out.
Missouri's only 11 of 19 from the free throw line. Not helping their cause at all, especially in the second half. The 257th meeting between these two teams, it goes back to 1907. The football rivalry actually is older than that. It goes back to 1891. But the Jayhawks, who hadn't won in 2 previous trips into this beautiful building, are going to get a win today. Chalmers works it around the perimeter. Smart basketball, just using clock. Out of 15 on the shot clock. And the drive, and Wright with a follow. Wow.
Beautiful late clock, late game possession by Kansas. Spread the floor, all 5 touched, and then Wright comes in for the second opportunity.
And Chalmers undercut a little bit trying to get the rebound. And I think the foul is going to be on Marshall Brown.
Why was Kansas able to have that kind of possession, Brad? 3 basically point guards on the floor now for Kansas to close out a ball game.
Well, young fella, you have had some kind of game. I think other than when we saw Kevin Durant, this is about the best we've seen on a individual performance. Our Jordan Brand takeover player of the game is Julian Wright, and I don't think anybody would argue. Career high 33 points, 10 better than his previous best to go with 12 rebounds. And you give a little bit of props to his teammate, Brandon Rush, who's had quite a game, too.
Saw Julian Wright this morning. They were actually staying on the same floor that I was in the hotel, and we were strolling down the hallway together, and we ran into the local policeman that was in charge of protecting the hallway for the Kansas Jayhawks. And Julian said, are you here to protect Brad Nessler? And the policeman said, no, I'm here to protect you, Julian.
I'm here to keep Brad Nessler from stealing the Gatorade that's out of the hallway. That's what I was thinking about, yeah.
Well, he's been so good around this rim and above the rim. Kansas has done a great job of letting this guy get loose in the open floor. Just a floater in the half court, and his length around the rim is something that Missouri could not match up with.
Butterfield on the outside. Kansas might end up at the century mark in this ball game before it's all over. We're only a minute 40. Feed inside. Lawrence up and under. Nice move. Good hang time by Keon Lawrence. As he's got 11. Again, full court pressure. Kansas breaks the press rather easily. And Russell will hand off to Chalmers, and now the passing will begin. They got 3 guys that can really handle the ball. You know, all 5 guys on the floor for Kansas can really handle the ball, and that includes Rush and Wright. So I started to say they got 3 guards out there that can handle it, but so can these guys. Number 25 and number 30 are almost as adept at handling the basketball as the point guards are. They do throw it away. Tiller.
1 minute remaining.
Out of a minute. Dandridge in the lineup. Lawrence way outside. I mean, way out.
When you think about the last 7 days Kansas has had, an emotional, tough loss against Texas A&M, then they bounce back on Wednesday and put a hammering on Kansas State, an in-state rivalry, and then the border showdown today, which is full of emotion, and Kansas has answered the bell.
Boy, have they ever. And that's a topper right there. Let's just put a little whipped cream on the Sunday. 21 points for Rush. And how many times has that backdoor alley-oop work today? Way too many if you're a Missouri fan, I'll tell you that much.
Kansas has thrown it to the side of the rim instead of at the front of the rim, just like you're supposed to every single time for the alley-oop.
So Kansas will win its 21st ball game, go to 8-2. They've won 15 of their last 17, and they win this one going away. The 257th border showdown. It was a showdown for part of the first half, but not after that. Final score, Kansas 92, Missouri 74.
They played like a team that wants to be a #1 or #2 seed 4 weeks from tomorrow.
Well, that's going to do it for Jimmy Dykes. Brad Nessler saying so long from Mizzou Arena. Big win for Kansas on the road as a super game by Julian Wright and Brandon Rush. They had the huge games. Good all-around balance by the 8th-ranked team in the land. They show why they're number 8. 92-74, Kansas over Missouri, and they get their first win ever in this arena on Missouri's home floor in Columbia. For Jimmy, Brad Nessler saying so long from Columbia, Missouri. 92-74 as we send it back to Carl Ravitch in the studio. Carl?
Brad, thank you very much. Interesting day, folks, as things unplayed. And, of course, tonight on ESPN, a huge game, as we'll see the #1 team in the nation, Florida, take on Kentucky. The game day crew's there. They'll give you a show on ESPN at 8 o'clock Eastern Time.